Hello, George.
Hello, Jerome. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
So, you've asked me to be on this podcast with you, and it's about game design, which I'm really excited about. But why did you ask me to be a part of it?
Well, for starters, I'm a game designer. I call myself a game designer because I have one published game. But, well, we can all call ourselves game designers even if we don't have a published game, or because we love to design games and talk about board game design. But I'm also a cameraman. I work for television and corporate films. And that's a bit how I met you, because it's something we have in common.
It's true. I met you in Essen, of all places. If that was my first time there, I was actually flown there by a company called Rathskellers because I'm also a filmmaker, and I was filming a video for Rathskellers, and there are beautiful tables there. But I'm also a game designer. I'm going to use that word carefully because I don't have a published game. I see what you were doing. You're being humble though, because your game is a pretty big one, Fumbler. I can't wait to receive. But I am a huge gamer. I've worked in the video game industry before, so I think that kind of also plays a role into why I love board games so much and why I want to try, designing a game. I have a few ideas currently, but my main business, which I've taken full time since October, which I'm really proud of, is an agency for board game publishers and designers where I do not only live video work, but I also do animation and trailers and Kickstarter videos and things like that. And I'm really blessed to have worked with some of wonderful designers and publishers around the world. And that's kind of what's feeding the passion right now and the belly.
Your videos on Instagram look very good, and that's why I added you on Instagram.
Well, thank you so much. I'm also I wish I had worked on your game, but maybe I'll do some work on your next game.
Well, let's start.
Speaking of, tell me what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I hope during the next podcast that we do together, I want to talk about board game design, but a hands-on view on board game design. You never see someone really going from an idea to a published game. And that's like the big mystery for most of us. When does the idea become a workable design? Yeah.
I actually love that because I'm the same way as far as how I like to learn. Even with everything that I'm doing, whether it's animation or filmmaking, I've been self-taught, and you can just dive in with the sharks and learn it the hard way. But nowadays we have so many great resources, with YouTube and everything online, as that people know. But I think there is a difference in how you can find that information. And like you said, I think I would love to explore that with you and see from beginning to end, especially what your process is like. I think I'm going to come from the perspective of, a newbie, a new aspiring game designer, and then it will be great to have some of that back and forth with someone like yourself who has gone through that experience already. And, I remember when you were working on Seakoro when I first met you, and I was fascinated when you were sending me all these behind the scenes moments and pictures, and the game looked like nothing like it looks like today. And so I'm really excited to see.
That's a very important thing in the design process, to start with something, is when you have an idea, don't hold it for yourself and share as fast as you can, because what I think is very helpful is feedback. Is when I explain my game to people, I quickly find the holes in my reasoning. And I also see by the reaction of the people I'm telling it to, if it works or if it doesn't work, even at just the beginning of the idea.
Even just hearing yourself.
I suggest one of my tips is don't hold it for yourself and don't start developing the idea in a bubble. Because sometimes the first idea you get is great, and when you start working on it and changing it without having feedback, then you might lose what was good in the beginning. And then if you go back to the same person more and more, like I did with you, that person will remind you, oh, but I liked it more last week or 2 weeks ago when you said this. So those are things that are important. Don't keep your idea to yourself.
And there's no original ideas anymore anyway. It's just the way you end up producing it and putting it together.
An important piece of advice is to share your idea better sooner than later, because any feedback is good. And I loved to talk to you about my ideas and bounce them off you, because talking about ideas generates new ideas. And that's why I want to do this podcast as well, because even if it feels like you're stealing an idea, it will never stay the thing you stole. You will always make something of yourself out of it. One of the games I'm working on now came literally from an idea of a friend who was making a game, and I said, oh, I want to use that. And I started working with it, and now you can't recognize it from what I took from his game. So don't worry about that, I would say.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest mistakes about 10 years ago was holding on to my ideas, worrying that people were going to steal them, and working within that bubble that you mentioned, that, you just keep iterating and you may lose track of what actually made your original idea good to begin with. And I learned that, the opportunity that I had to shift the concept was when I worked in the video game industry. We would actually release our video games, they were casual games at the time, early, and players would actually get to play them at an early state. It's not like, okay, don't worry about the wallpaper or the way that this furniture looks so far, it's just gonna change, but they would still give us the most valuable feedback by playtesting early.
One of the things that I want to do is bounce off ideas, because, of course, in this podcast, I want it to be about a hands-on experience, 0 to 100 board game design wise. So I have my book of ideas. You have one too, and I'm gonna talk about games I was working on. So it's still in idea form. This one, I made a prototype and it kind of worked, and then I let it go because, and that's a problem maybe common to you, I designed a game that I don't like to play.
Why is that? Yeah, why do we tend to do that? What was in your mind when you were coming up with that?
I think it was because the idea was interesting, but from idea to playing the game is very different.
Yeah.
So it was a deck builder based on Star Realms. So you play cards and buy cards, that kind of game. I like Star Realms. That's no problem. But I don't really like Dominion. It's very mechanical. But I love the computer game Crusader Kings, where you play medieval lords. I think you can start as a baron or an earl and whatever, and you can build up your empire and climb through the ranks. But it's not about military power. It's about how you use your family to gather power by marrying your daughters and your sons into other families, and then your king dies and you become the next in line. So you're playing a family and a lineage, and that's where this game came in. I wanted to get that feeling of not solely playing a game through military power, but using the characters in your family. So I thought, like a family tree is very interesting as a tableau building game. And then Mystic Veil came out, and Custom Heroes, where you can sleeve cards and make cards better by sleeving stuff into them. Have you heard of this game?
I do have Mystic Veil, and I've tried it. I know what you mean, yeah.
You have Mystic Veil? I have never played it. What do you think of it?
I really liked it. The whole reason I got it, like many games I buy sometimes, is because of the visual aspect and the components. Mm-hmm. And so I was really intrigued to see a game that had,
work with it,
see-through cards and things like that, which I had seen, with Gloom and things like that. But I wanted to see what it looked like that way because I had an idea that was kind of a combination of like you know betrayal and that idea of using cards to combine in layers for different things. So I wanted to see first of all what they did with it. But yeah, no, I mean I don't mind it at all, and some of my group really likes the game too. I have a question about this idea though. When you said you had an idea, was it mechanics first or theme first?
So the idea came from the computer game, and um, yeah, what I wanted to take from because there is a board game of Crusader Kings now. So like 2 years
Yes.
after my idea, it came out. I think a year ago, and but for me, the core of the computer game was your family and your traits because you pass on traits like genetic traits, but also how you educate your uh, the people that are next in line, your kids. Like if you have your son, your firstborn son, and you put him with the marshal, he's gonna have a good military traits. But and also if you marry someone with a hunchback and you make kids with them, chances are that your kids are gonna have a hunchback as well. And that's like in the European history, it's rife with genetic disorders and malformations. There's books about it, and that was for me the
Right.
interesting part. Like, who do I marry, and do I compromise my my bloodline for power? And
That
also,
is a very interesting theme.
yeah, when your family is widespread, you start to marry your own family, and yeah, that becomes tricky. And I wanted that feeling of of gathering power through family. Yeah.
See, you just said the magic word for me, and I don't know if I'm often correct in assuming that because my gut usually, when I wanna design something or wanna create an experience, it's usually that I want people
Mhm.
to have a feeling or
Yeah.
an experience when they play. I don't often think of a mechanic first or anything like that. I just want to
No.
feel like what do
Yeah.
I want them to embody when they're playing, or what do I want them to leave the table with?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
the mechanic or theme first doesn't really matter. I think.
What about? Tell me a little bit about what we're looking at here. I know that was
Okay.
going back to that Star Realms inspiration.
Yes. So it started as a tableau building game, but the problem was if you talk about so if every card is a person and you want to add traits to that person, and it becomes a deck building game. So, for example, in a tableau, it's fine. You put a trait underneath the cards and it sticks to that card. That's no problem. But I had a system where your king dies and everything goes back into your deck and you shuffle and stuff like that. But the trait gets shuffled with it. So I lose the connection to the character. And that's when I thought about Mystic Veil and the sleeved cards. And then the engine started to churn out ideas. Because if you have. So you would have a row of cards in the middle that you could buy. You could marry your daughter to an earl in the middle of the row, and you would pay money for the dowry. But you could send your son to battle and attack that earl. But once your daughter marries the earl, it's in your tableau. The two cards are together, and you could use the military might of the guy your daughter just married to attack someone else. So those were the mechanics, the push and pull that I wanted.
Did you see a video that I made for Brookspun Games, Jason Brooks, a game called Legacies? It has an
No,
aspect
not
of
yet.
that of getting heirs to who you
Yeah,
are, and it takes
there
the
are
game
some games that
spans.
try to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So and yeah, from I mean I'm biased because I got to work on the Kickstarter
Hmm.
video, but it looks really fun, and I did the how to play, so yeah, I can't wait to try it. But it has aspects of what you're saying is like picking people to be sort of to carry on your legacy, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Well,
but no, I
there are some games that try to do it, but they never really focused on that. It was a mechanic in
yes,
a bigger game. Yeah. And
hmm
that's what
yeah,
disappointed me a little bit in the Crusader Kings board game. And that's what I backed it on Kickstarter. And when I saw it, it was a map of Europe. and I was like, I don't think that's the focus of the computer game. The map is not really necessary because you're just scrolling through a list of suitors. Oh, I want to marry the prince of Burgundy or whatever because of this. Because it would put my son in line to the throne for France, and it's those kind of things are important, and the dudes on a map aren't. Yeah, and that's I was disappointed that it focused on that.
Yeah, you could totally have some fun with that theme, and also choosing the people you're going to include as characters.
Yeah, so I went away. I stopped doing that one.
I need to ask, what's the next page there with the human?
This is another idea.
Okay.
Based on.
Is it
Inside
Operation?
Out. No,
5.0?
Based on Inside Out. Do you know the Pixar movie?
Yes.
I saw it
about
last
emotions.
week. Yeah, with the emotions, and I think Cerebria also covers this.
Yeah.
Yeah, covered this. I wanted to make a game based on the Great Western Trail mechanics, where you're adding tiles and make the trail more complex. Yeah. The idea here was the hero in a dungeon, like super classic. I was gonna fix it later if it had to be something else, but I thought if the hero in a dungeon is controlled by the emotions Inside Out, like the angry one and the disgusted and the afraid, and the players around the table are each one of those emotions, or are each in control. It stopped being emotions. It started being I'm in control of the body on my turn. And he goes through the dungeon, and you start swinging his sword, and I'm like, no, I want to start running, and then stuff like that.
That's a really cool idea.
The path would be the nerves. So you would send an impulse to the hand to make a fist, but you're not hitting yet. So you made a fist, and you start swinging, but you don't have enough action points to actually swing. And the idea was that it would be super funny to, on the board, have the hero be like fumbling through the dungeon and trying to fight. And so that was the idea. But it was... So Great Western Trail, so it would have basic actions on the hands and the arms and the legs. And you could put your actions there that would make the action better or stronger or more special. But I made an early prototype, and it just didn't. Mechanically, it didn't work.
Yeah, there's something there about the idea that I love as well. But I can see it maybe
I've drawn a lot of these characters.
Was it maybe too slow down, like too slow motion by the time you actually got to have anything happen to the hero?
Yeah. You want to, if the hero encounters a bad guy that he needs to conquer, you want to do it in 1 or 2 turns maximum. You don't want to spend 5 turns and then have it fail because someone else decided to tuck and roll or something. Those were the things. But I will go back to it if I get an idea about it. But yeah, that's interesting because if I can tell you the idea, then maybe I can solve it.
Yeah. Well, my question becomes right away: what would be the benefit for each player to maybe not do what's obvious? Like, what's the obvious next turn? Obviously, we need to try to defeat this person, but if I am gaining something by wanting the character to get hurt, how does that, why and how does that look like? Because I think that'd be really fun too. Yeah,
the monsters would be card row, and how you fight one is not how you fight another.
Yeah, and there's something, maybe an idea of a betrayer amidst the group, not knowing like maybe what emotion you represent. That could be something too, or.
Yeah, I think you had multiple enemies that you could fight, and I would set myself up to fight one enemy, and then someone else had other tiles on the arms and legs that would set him up to fight another one. And it would be not mutually exclusive, but I could see on the board, like, oh, if I attack that one, suddenly he's not in a position to attack the other one, what you were working on, for example. Yeah. So it would be more in those lines. Yeah. Maybe this shouldn't be the whole episode, like me trying to remember what I was drawing. Oh, this is the game I'm working on now.
Okay.
I
was excited to find out.
Yeah, I should put a date on these things. When I started doing it now, when I start working on something, I put a date. But so I don't know from when this is. But this is from when I was designing Fujikoro. I had the idea because Fujikoro, you're crafting weapons with cubes. While working on Fujikoro, I had the idea that I could use this to build ships as well. Like the brown cubes could be the deck and the masts, and the gray cubes could be the cannons, and the white cubes could be the sails. And then I started working on that, and then immediately I said, no, I should first finish Fujikoro, and then maybe I can revisit it later.
Nice.
Yeah. So I started on this since a month.
And stacking the cubes also visually could make it look like a ship too, I imagine. Or are you no stacking?
It's too fiddly. Yeah, and I like it to be simple because bare bones, I'm going to tell you bare bones, Fujikoro, the weapons that you're crafting, it's actually just a track. It's a tracker to see how powerful you are. And it's a tracker to see how much life you still have. But it's all in one with the added value that it looks like a weapon. But it's just a track with what dice can I roll and what damage can I do and what damage can I take. So it's just a track in a nice shape. And the ship would be the same. It would also be a tracker for how many dice can I roll to move. I have three white sails, so I can roll three white dice, and it will tell me how much I can move. I was going to bring back roll and move, George. I was going to bring it back.
That's so scary. But I'd like to see. I'd like to see you try it. Maybe, hey, everyone here can see it happening live.
Who wants to see a crash and burn live?
Actually, everyone.
Yes. A train wreck. Why I started working on it again, it's inspired by Donald Trump's press conferences on Corona.
Oh my gosh.
So I was making the pirate game and I started writing the story of the pirate game, and it was the Pirate King has been banned or expelled from the Caribbean. Like the French, English and Spanish have made sure that there's no more pirates in the Caribbean. And they all go to the South China Sea, the Philippines. The sceneries there are fantastic, like with the jagged rocks. I really would like the artwork from there. Like Yamatai is that kind of artwork.
Yes. Yeah, beautiful.
That kind of atmosphere, yeah. So the Pirate King has been expelled, and you are one of his lieutenants. So the Pirate King and his 4 lieutenants go to the South China Sea, and they start a new empire. And the Pirate King settles an island in the middle of the board, again a flower tile like Fujikoro, and says to his lieutenants, plunder, find spoils and bring them to me, and we'll get back on our feet in no time. But since the Pirate King has been expelled, he has lost a lot of respect from his lieutenants, and they're not sure if they should follow him anymore. So Trump does his press conferences, and he's the Pirate King, and I wanted players to have the feeling like, oh, he's taking horrible decisions, but I still have to adhere to them. So I came up with a card stack, and every round a card would be opened, and the Pirate King demands 3 sailors and a cannon, and you, as loyalists, you would have to complete that mission, for example, and you would bend over backwards to do it. But the one who betrays him doesn't have to worry about that anymore and can just go sandbox style through the world. So these kind of
That's
things.
fun.
But I saw the press conference and I saw the guys behind him like, oh God, what is he saying now? And I said, oh, this is the feeling I want to give my players. I want them to be like, do I stay with him or do I leave and write a book about it? And that's the feeling that I wanted to give the players. And I wanted to make it a betrayal game. Like, when do I betray the Pirate King and start for myself? And how long do I stay loyal to him? And that's the feeling that I wanted to give. And I wanted this to be shown by the points track. So you will have the Pirate King starts on 5 points and everybody else starts on 0 points. But you cannot go past the Pirate King on the point track. So if you score 10 points, you have to give some points to the Pirate King and you have to push him forward on the point track and stay behind him. Otherwise, you're a betrayer. But at some point,
really
you want
like
to
that.
do it. Yeah.
I really
And
like
then
that
I-
idea.
Yeah, but it's very hard to implement because with runaway leaders and stuff like that. So I really want to keep it visual on the point track that you're physically passing the Pirate King, but it becomes difficult because if I move up the Pirate King to stay just behind him, afterwards, if you score 10 points, you get just behind the Pirate King and you move him up 1 point or maybe. And everybody would be bunched up behind the Pirate King. And that was my problem. I tested it once and it was also never useful to betray him. Anyway, because you would have, as a betrayer, you would have your own goal to work to. It would be a race to a finish line, and the betrayer's finish line would be different than the Pirate King's finish line. And if the Pirate King crosses his finish line, the first person behind the Pirate King would be the winner. So it was kind of problematic, but I'm solving it.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe like there's an added benefit to the people who are still loyal to go after the person who has betrayed them.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's something there. Then it adds more value to the players who are still loyal to do something. No, it definitely sounds problematic. But I really like this hearing about your process. You know, like we went through a few pages in your book, and I wanted to kind of stay even longer with some of them just to talk about the process. But maybe this game that you're working on now would be great for that.
I was thinking that people could go to the comments and ask me what game I should work on more.
Which
but
of all three?
Kind of dangerous. Yeah, if they pick the first game, I'm not really inclined to do it. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it would be really, really useful to see one of these ideas from start to finish.
Okay. Yeah, because this is the first episode. It's just an introduction to what we're gonna do here. One of these games is gonna make it. Yeah, the one is Bloodlines. It's the Crusader Kings
Bloodlines.
card crafting game. Then you have the Inside Out game. That's the least developed one. Then you have Seakoro.
Pirate Trump.
The shipbuilding, the Pirate Trump game. Yeah. And then now you have a game about journalism. Yeah.
Journalism.
Yes, because I'm a cameraman, I film the news a lot. And I wanted in this game, so the feeling that I wanted players to have was that you're the editor of a newspaper. As a journalist, you want to give deep digging, sound journalistic pieces, and be the Washington Post that uncovers Watergate and stuff like that.
Right.
But to be economically viable, you have to also give the people what they want and give them not so great fluff pieces and the celebrities and whatever. And the idea was that I wanted to retheme Dead of Winter.
Oh, one of my favorite games.
Yeah, you're sending out your journalists to different locations, to the football stadium, to the parliament, to the street, to the red carpets, to gather news. And the deck where you would go through has stories in there, or has people. and you would make stories in your hand. It was like it was a mix between Dead of Winter and Fantasy Realms. Do you know Fantasy Realms?
Nice. Yes, I do. That's
Yeah, you have
awesome.
a
That's
hand of
a
7
great.
cards, and you cycle the cards until you have the perfect or the best hand you can make. And that
Yeah.
was the idea. Like, you go with your journalist, you go pick up cards, and you try to make the best hand. And this hand, every round, is your newspaper. So that was the basic idea. But how do these cards interact with each other without having too much text like Fantasy Realms? I wanted with iconography that they would speak about each other, the cards. That in your hand it was very clear, like, oh, this is a coherent story, or this is a story about a politician that takes bribes to build a football stadium, and then it would be the politician would come out of the deck at the parliament, and bribe would come out of the deck for the financial news, and you could make a story about it. But with the same cards, you could make another story. So that was the difficulty that I wanted to do. So this was the boards, the locations that you go, culture, sports, politics, the financial markets, foreign affairs, red carpets, and then in the middle was the sewer, where you could go get news that's not really true. And you could use it to make stories work. So those were like wild cards, and you could,
Yes.
but you would lose your reputation, and there would be like a market mechanism how to do it. So this was the closest I came to something workable. So can you see it clearly?
I can. This is really cool. It looks like a subway map.
So yeah, this would be where what the news is about. So the financial news. So this would be where the deck, from what deck it came from. So you went with your reporter to the stock markets, and you got this financial news. But it has a financial line and a political line on it. So it could be about politician, and over it could be about the economy. And then you got this sports figure from the sport deck, and it has also a yellow line for financial news, and red because it's celebrity, and then green because it's sport. So you could, about this person, you could make a sports news thing, or for now it's financial. It goes into this, so it's bribe, and the artwork should tell the story about what's happening. And but it would be like Dixit, kind of free to interpret. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's a bribe of a sports figure, celebrity, with a foreign national that took the money or something, and have to build a stadium. And you would connect the cards and make like a set collection game, and you would, at the end of each round, everybody would score their hand and say like, my front page is this, and the front page would be like your card that scores in the front page section. So you would be scoring on different tracks, like and on demand. So if a lot of people in the world want to see sporting news, then you want to have a front page with sports, because it's the Olympics or it's the World Cup, and then like the round would be like, we are in the Olympic season, and if you would come with political news during the Olympics, it would be worth less than sport news, and other way around. If it's war, political news would be more valuable and stuff like that.
I have a question, a very important one that maybe could help people decide. At the beginning, when we started talking, you mentioned that you've in the past started working on games you don't want to make. Any of these four fall into this category?
No, because now that I'm talking about them, I want to get back into them.
I think this is super fun. I love that we have something that people could potentially interact with and vote on some of these ideas.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I
got into it, ideas.
I didn't think it through.
I think it's really interesting to see, because it also makes me feel better, because in those booklets I showed you, I have more than one ideas. Like, I would actually start on one that would inspire the next one, and I'm like, oh, I'm all over the place. I wish I could decide, and I want to find out, at the end of the day, obviously, in your case, you just want to call a friend and ask what they think. But I'm just kidding. You know, do you use other elements as far as like, I'm going to decide to go with this idea? Um, Looking at, you know, what's popular these days in the industry or current events or anything like that. And then in addition to that question, I want to ask, does it matter? Because ultimately, if a publisher that you're going to pitch this to ends up liking the mechanics and the idea, how often would the publisher ask for a different theme?
Yes. It's ridiculous to start designing a game on current events unless you're really sure that you're gonna finish the game during the current events, or that it will still be in the memory of the people, because it takes longer than you think to develop a game, and you know this as well. If you start something about, yeah, I can't give an example, but you see this more often, that suddenly every publisher comes out with a Viking game, and then if you start designing a Viking game while Viking games are popular, in 2 years it will be dinosaurs, and you'll be there with your Viking game. So it's not, and the publisher, like you said, you can pitch a game to a publisher, and you most of the time they will try to fit it in the line of games they already have. So if they have a lot of Viking games, they will say, "Oh yeah, we can make another Viking game. We're comfortable with that." But the publisher will mostly decide what they want to stick on there, and you shouldn't get too attached to your theme or the artwork you paid for. Don't buy artwork. Don't You can buy artwork, but like for one piece, or like, you just to give an idea to a publisher, you can order some artwork, but don't put thousands of euros in artwork for the whole game, because chances are that you're gonna have to throw it away, especially if you like I did, ask for artwork halfway your design, and then you get attached to the artwork and you're reluctant to change the rules of your design, even though you should, because it wouldn't fit the artwork anymore. So those things are very dangerous, because it will hamper your design, and it will, yeah, it will make it more difficult for you to throw it away. Like I did, like with the Bloodlines, I had all these cards and all this stock images that I put in an Excel sheet, uh, for one playthrough, and it was rubbish. I have hundreds of cards, hundreds.
Um, for the benefit of those watching too, and they're maybe thinking of starting to do game design and all that, like are starting out. You did touch on how long it could take, and a lot of people may not realize. So you've been through this before with Fujikoro. So
Yeah.
can you tell us from inception to when you started talking to a publisher to when it was actually released, what were the time frames like?
It was 4.5 years, I think, from idea to maybe 5 years, from idea to being published. I designed it in a year and a half, and the first couple of months, I didn't ask for feedback to people, and I was designing in a bubble. I made all the mistakes that you can make. I talked to a graphic designer to make artwork, even when the game was not nearly finished. But it was okay for prototypes, and I could adjust it, but still. And the minute I talked to the publisher was at Essen the year before I met you. And then it took another and then it took another 3 years until it was actually in the shops. Yeah. So from signing in January, I think, after Essen, to actually working on it for that whole year with the publisher, and then having the publisher find an artist and do the testing and do the logistical work, and then it got pushed back for another game that was better at that time. So yeah, the agenda was, yeah, it took a while. Yeah. I'm happy it's there, but
And why? And I was going to say now, why should someone who's watching actually continue with their passion of making games after hearing that?
For me,
Is it rewarding?
it is rewarding. Yes, yeah. Having your name on the box is a very good feeling. Yeah, yeah. That's not why we do it. I think the most fun about designing a game is having the idea and the enthusiasm of having the idea and writing it down and thinking about it. That's the most fun part. Then you have the working on it and making it work. That's really work. it's it's where most designers give up because it's the hardest part, and it's also where you're confronted with yeah, difficulties and where you have to compromise on your original idea and where it starts to not fall apart. But it's hard work to make it fit your original idea and the original feeling you wanted to give the players. And then the other good feeling is when you sign it to a publisher. And like, yeah. And then you sit around and wait until it comes out.
Well,
But
thank you. Thank you
but
for sharing that, and because it is interesting. I think it's most valuable to me is actually, meeting my idols or talking to people who have done the things that I'm dreaming of doing, because you do get that. It's all a honeymoon phase in your mind when you haven't gone through it, and it's
yeah,
nice to know people and talk to the people who have gone through it, and then they can tell you firsthand experience what it's like, what to expect. And I think it gives you ammunition going forward to be a stronger designer and all those things. So that's what I'm really excited to be a part of this, is not only to have fun talking with you about something I'm really passionate about and that you're obviously very passionate about,
yeah,
but to also learn from that for both of us, and hopefully show a few people who are looking to join us for this journey, to learn as well, and maybe even help us along this journey. So
yeah.
yeah, thanks for starting this up and for opening literally your notebooks for us so we can see what's going on.
Well, yes. And next episode, I really want to dig deeper into one of these designs and work on it and give more tips on where you get stuck and how you best solve things. Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for listening.
So more hands-on
George.
going forward.
Yeah. I'll take
Thank you for
one
sharing.
of the designs and I'll think on the steps I want to talk about. Yeah.
I won't tell you which of the 4 or 5, if you count category, I want to work on. But maybe people can let us know if they end up watching this, which one they think too. But I won't reveal my choice until the next episode.
Okay, perfect. I'll see you then, George.
Thank you very much, Jerome. Have an awesome day. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you, and comment below.